Here.
Hey. Woo.
Joseph Wetmore,
Here.
Edward Levine,
Here.
and Guy, I presume you're there somewhere?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just muting so there's no background noise to mess things up for other people that want to listen.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. So I guess the first order of business, or our next order, is item number 4, privilege of the floor.
So CJ would know if anybody's.
CJ,
Yes.
is there anybody that wants to privilege of the floor? I think you're the control tonight.
Sure, and I also made Pat the co-host as well. No, I think 2 of our local journalists were in the room, but I mentioned to them that they could watch the meeting live stream on YouTube. I gave them the link.
Excellent. So there is a button there, I guess, now you can watch this YouTube, isn't it? A link that I think, Patrick, did you put that on?
It's internet, it's on our homepage, and you can just click it and it goes right to our YouTube channel.
Perfect. Thank you, Dan.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you, Dan.
Now we go up to 4A, optional board member responses, but there's no discussion, or there hasn't been any comments from the floor, so I guess we'll move on then. Our next item of business is the Lansing Community Library Report. It's in your packet.
I'll just make a really quick note on that, because it says in number 4 that the election is being held via direct mail, which it was, along with the Lansing Central School District budget voting. And there's 2 that were reelected, 2 trustees of the library were reelected, and there was 1 new trustee. We do have a trustee who's leaving, he's leaving, Jason Cole, and they're looking for someone else to stand, but he hadn't left before the vote. And they opened up for curbside pickup on Monday, as did the rest of the libraries in the county.
Excellent. Can you hear me okay back there, Pat? The microphone?
Microphones go through the camera, so
Perfect.
don't worry about it.
So we don't need these at all.
Well, you still need to speak into them for the YouTube channel to have us now follow.
Okay. Hopefully they'll be able to hear us also.
Yes.
Question I have for you, Andra, is the feasibility study that was being done by the library, have they completed that yet?
I do know this.
Okay. Just kind of curious about that. Okay. Now, on to the next one. Agenda number 5 is the Lansing Youth Service Report. That's in your packet also.
That's pretty self-explanatory.
Perfect.
Lots of stuff is virtual, but it's all out on there.
Next is the Tompkins County Legislator Mike Sigler's report. That would be agenda item number 7. Agenda item number 8 in your packet is a Park and Rec report from Pat Terrell. Are there any questions for Pat, since he is accessible here in the room?
Yeah, my question for Pat is, are the playgrounds open or are they closed?
The playgrounds are open.
Okay, thank you.
How many times a day do you have to clean them?
We're at 4, trying to be 4 right now. They should be disinfected with soap and water. Also, we use bleach solution on things that are touched numerous times, handrails, benches, stuff like that. We're working through it and doing our best.
Would it be feasible to invest in a fogger?
I don't know at this time. The cost of those is roughly $2,000, maybe a little more, and then you have the chemical cost, which is like another $197 a case. So we're looking into other options right now. There's certain sprayer options that are out there that are around $200, and the product's like $70 a case. So
Can we get Pat closer to a mic? I'm having trouble understanding him. He's getting kind of garbled.
that's my man.
Thank you, man. There you go.
So we're looking into several options, Joe. Fogger is one of them, but they're obviously very expensive. Second option is like a mist sprayer, which is a cheaper version. It's more like a handheld sprayer, but it's on a kind of a cart, and and the chemicals for that are a little bit cheaper. So those are the two options we've looked at so far. More than likely, probably going with the handheld sprayer type thing.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So that puts more pressure on your staff, right? Because you have to clean things more?
Yes, so our staff is very overworked right at the moment, obviously with bathrooms and playgrounds now. The mountains of paperwork we have to do for the health department is really exhausting at this point, because we are trying to have summer camps as well. There's been quite a demand and a lot of phone calls and emails to our department to have some summer camps. Some directors or counselors don't feel comfortable having those. We understand that, so we're just kind of working through our list and seeing who would like to hold camp and who would not like to hold camp, and kind of going from there. So the list is going to be shorter than normal, but we are going to have some camps.
And is that all online, you find out online?
Yes, everything is online. Yep. And
Yeah.
we keep adding to that daily, so whatever comes up that day, we usually put the registration up that day.
Okay, thank you.
Pat,
Yes.
park looks great.
Thanks, Doug. Appreciate it. We did have some dock issues. There's same issue in the small marina we had in the big one with lumber. So we've replaced some boards there. We're probably gonna have to do a total replacement in the fall of each dock.
I would agree
Yeah.
in that regard. Memorial Day weekend was $6,000.
Yeah, we were almost $6,000, which I think is probably a record high for us. I don't remember any other weekends that big. We are obviously charging a little bit more admission at the front, and we're doing a better job tracking who's actually a Lansing resident and who's not. So we're getting those people that are not Lansing residents to pay, which is actually helping out as well, so.
Good job.
What electric have you been doing down there? I saw Freddie Stone down there.
So a couple of the pavilions were really, really bad. Actually, we found buried extension cable or wire in one of them that ran all the way to the subservice panel, which was a big no-no. So we did Pavilion B and Pavilion C have new wiring and new electric.
Well done.
Yep. New lighting. I'm sorry, I misspoke. I said electric. New lighting. New LED lighting.
How old is that electric? 69?
If that's, yeah, I believe that's when the pavilion was put in, so that's probably, if they put it in at the same time, yeah, it's pretty old.
Half a century.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions or comments before we move on to the next agenda item? Okay. Agenda item number 9 is the Highway Superintendent Report. Usually Cricket is here, and he hasn't been here for a while, obviously, for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
We're gonna go to agenda item number 10, Director of Planning Report. CJ, you've been, as
Yep.
usual, very, very busy.
We do okay, yes. We do our best. If there's specific questions I can answer, I'm happy to do that. We have some, I will just mention that we have additional personnel changes, which I'll be discussing with you later this evening.
Okay. When do you want to discuss those, under what topic, or you just want to segue into it right now?
Well, I thought there may be discussion about personnel on the agenda or executive session, but it's certainly up to you. I'm happy to discuss that now.
Okay. Why don't you, since you're right there?
Yeah, so I just received word today that our new code clerk will not be our new code clerk. So Jen had applied, Jen Sandsted, who had come to us from the court office very generously, sort of on loan, I suppose. It has accepted a position elsewhere, and so we're going to be advertising the position. Charmaine helped me through today, posting the position with civil service, and so we'll be going through some rounds of some interviews, and we'll be on the lookout for great candidates to join the planning and code team.
Okay. Well, we wish you well. I know that Sue Munson may be able to help us out for some of the items when she can do it remotely when she's with her mom. So that might be helpful to take some of the concerns off as we transition into a new information aid.
Yes, that's correct. She's been fantastic, of course, and she's really great about minutes especially, and being able to record the meetings via Zoom and then transcribe them. She could really be anywhere, and she can even attend the meetings from anywhere. So for the foreseeable future, at least for now, we probably continue to have her do those minute transcripts. And Charmaine has talked to me about moving Sue from the position of an employee to essentially somebody who would bill the town and give a voucher, like a consultant, basically. So I think that could be a nice stopgap, at least in the interim.
Okay, thank you.
Yay!
Yay.
Guy has arrived.
Any questions or concerns about for our planner? Now we move on to the next agenda item. Number 11 is the engineer's day of Harris report. We can move on to agenda item number 12, the ag committee report with Connie. As you know, all the farmers are out working now, so we'll probably see them in the fall. Which brings us up to the next, which is our consent agendas. Andre, you want to read out the first two?
Should we move it first? Or?
We should.
Okay.
And I'll second it.
Consent agenda.
And I'll second it.
Okay. You want me to read
A and B.
A and B?
Mhm.
Okay. Resolution scheduling public hearing and determining environmental significance pursuant to state environmental quality review, proposed local law number 2, 2020 of the town of Lansing, to provide for the codification of the local laws, ordinances, and certain resolutions of the town of Lansing into a municipal code to be designated the code of the town of Lansing.
Okay. And then B.
B, resolution scheduling public hearing for review of annual storm water report.
Okay, Bronwyn. Bronwyn,
Yep,
could you do?
resolution scheduling public hearing. What?
Yes, please. Do C and D, please.
Yep. Resolution scheduling public hearing for proposed local law number 3 of 2020 of the town of Lansing to amend the land use ordinance relating to solar and wind energy systems proposed to be sited in the town of Lansing, New York. And D is resolution establishing Town of Lansing Highway Department Building Renovation Project Evaluation Committee and appointing members.
Okay, Doug, will you please do E and F?
Resolution E, resolution hiring part-time seasonal employees for parks and recreation for the town of Lansing. And F, approve audit and budget modification and supervisor's report.
Excellent. Now, Mrs. Munson, I believe we have roll call.
Sorry.
Ed, I'd just like to make a quick point that the supervisor's report had a minor amendment.
32 cents?
Yep,
Thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. And it's been so noted. And I think when I sent copies today, I think it was with the corrected one for 2020 in it, I hope. That's just for information so our board can compare where we are this year as opposed to last year. But it's so noted, so thank you.
Is that on here? I'm not sure what he's talking about.
The supervisor's report, which
Yeah.
we said in the past, is it was off by 32 cents.
Okay.
So we now can acknowledge that. In fact, you had on that sheet you showed me. It was crossed off at 0.8 and 40, that
Right.
was what the change was.
So it was already corrected. So it was already corrected. That was the one I got today.
Right, but I don't think we had officially accepted the changes on that for 32
It
cents.
was all signed off by people.
I think we just need to acknowledge it, which it has been.
Okay.
Anything else?
I mean, do I need to say what line it was on or anything, or, I mean, just to say there was a change of 32 cents?
It was a change on the reserve fund for, I'm trying to remember which one it was.
Let's see if I have it here, Joe.
Well, it's in my office. I could just make the note later on what line it was on.
Right, and what we didn't change on that copy, what should have, was the total for the first section. Obviously changes when one of the items change.
Okay. That's okay. I'll make note of it on here and
Okay,
put the exact words on when I get back to my office.
perfect.
Okay, so the vote is for all of the things in the consent agenda resolutions 20-90 to 2095. Andrew Benson?
Yes.
Doug Dake?
Yes.
Bronwyn Losey?
Yes.
Joseph Wetmore?
Yes,
Edward Levine?
Yes. Let's move on to item 14 on our agenda. And this is the resolution granting the State of New York authority to perform the adjustment for the owner and agreeing to maintain facilities adjusted via state-let contract.
I so move.
I'll second it.
Is there any discussion?
Any further discussion? Mrs. Munson?
Andrew Benson?
Yes.
Doug Dake?
Yes.
Bronwyn Losey?
Yes.
Joseph Wetmore?
Yes,
Edward Levine?
Yes. Let's go to agenda item number 15, is the resolution scheduling public hearing for proposed local law number 4 of 2020, override tax levy limit.
I'll move it.
Okay, got Andra and who, and was
And
Doug? Okay.
Any further discussion?
yeah, I would like to ask how much we're really considering raising taxes, given the current climate in which unemployment is extremely high, and I know our community is struggling to make ends meet in many ways. Do we really want to be moving towards a position where we can raise taxes, or are we looking at the society as it is right now and saying, this is not a good time to raise taxes? And so I'd kind of like to hear from the other board members how open they are to raising taxes this year.
I think we pass this just in case. If we don't pass it, it could be a problem, because we have to raise the taxes. So I'm in favor of this resolution.
In the past, what we've done historically is to allow us the flexibility during budget season as we look at what the options are. And one year, we went over the tax cap due to drainage districts, which had nothing to do with anybody else, but these separate districts pushed us over. And other times, we've been underneath the tax cap. Hopefully, we will be again this year. So we did another resolution to rescind the first resolution so we could be underneath the tax cap. So this merely gives us flexibility to consider if raising taxes, which, as I've always stated, is the last resort, if that really is an option or not. Any other comments by board members?
We've done this every year that I've been on the board. Obviously, this is a different year, but I agree. The flexibility it's allowing us is probably needed. So I don't wanna raise taxes at all. I want them to go down, actually, so.
Well, one thing I want to mention, just so that you have all perspectives, is that bond rating companies and fiscal advisors, if you have outstanding bonds upon which you pledge the full faith and credit of the town, universally recommend that you do this, not because you will raise taxes, but because you must perform on the bond, because a default would hurt your bond rating and you'd be paying extra money for 20 years. And not doing this and not having that flexibility might be viewed as a negative thing by the bond rating agency. But that's more of an auditing question than a legal question. That's just been expressed many times in the past, and I have difficulty imagining that the SEC rules have become less complex, but it's still a legislative decision for you guys.
Okay, thank you, guys.
I just want to make one last comment that I will vote for this, but I want it on the record that I'm really not interested in raising taxes this year. This is one year in which I think, if anything, we'll cut back in order to avoid raising taxes because it's such an exceptional year.
Any other comments before we move forward?
Did Bronwyn want me?
Bronwyn, you want to comment?
I think that it's important to keep in mind the issues facing folks in Lansing and do our best to not raise taxes, but at the same time, have this option, especially because, like I was mentioning about the bond rating, and that's all I can say about it, as I've not gone through a budget season yet. So I'm sure I'll have more to say.
All right, thank you. Okay, having said that, Mrs. Munson?
Andrew Benson,
Yes.
Doug Dake,
Yes,
Bronwyn Losey,
Yes.
Joseph Wetmore,
Yes.
Edward Levine.
Yes. Okay, item number 16, your packet, motion approving stormwater operation, management, and reporting agreement for the Village Circle, Village Solar's planned development area.
Okay.
I will move it.
I'll second it. Now we can have the discussion.
Okay, I have 2 points that I would like to do. One, which is I would like to clarify point 1 in it, and Guy and I discussed some language. So point 1 would read, subject to approval by the town board for material changes to make final adjustments and negotiate the final terms of such SOMBRA and. It just clarifies that any changes that are made that are material have to go before the town board, and any negotiated changes between now and signing could only be minor. So I would like to make that change. And I would like to make an additional change that I would like to switch it from having the supervisor sign it to the stormwater officer signing it instead.
Who is the stormwater?
Lynn
I
Day.
believe that's CJ.
Lynn Day.
Linda.
Linda, that's fine.
This is any other comments?
I would just add that the SOMRO was actually a request from the town engineer and town stormwater management officer, and was a listed condition of the previous waiver that was approved recently by the town.
And I'll add, it's also required by the local law that approved the PDA. It's also required by EPA Phase 2 stormwater regulations that affect us. And the changes that Joe are making, the first one simply reflects existing law. When someone's authorized to, just to be clear, because we've had this come up before, and it would be, I think, I agree with Joe that it'd be better just to clean up the language than have it come up. But when someone's authorized to negotiate the final form of the agreement, that doesn't give them authority to override the legislative approval. As a matter of law, it would only pertain to minor changes. So saying it doesn't change a darn thing about the resolution. And as far as who signs it, the town can authorize who they wish, but it is frequently in many towns signed by the stormwater management officer. That's not the least bit unusual. and we might want to consider, especially now that we may have a code soon, putting in place an administrative proceeding so that the town board doesn't have to review this, because at this point, you've had attorney review, engineering review, planning board review, stormwater management officer review, applicant and applicant engineers review. If anything was going sideways, I would have to think somebody would spot it, but just saying, neither of those changes seem like they're a problem from any legal perspective I'm aware of. Just throwing 2 cents in.
I'm fine with those changes. Anyone else?
I think it's okay.
So we will move this with changes.
Guy, are you going to send me those changes or somebody? Because I obviously didn't write all that down.
I can send it, or Guy can send it, either way.
Yeah, I'll send it and copy Joe, and that way, if for some reason I, put the wrong attachment or something in, between the two of us, we have the language, we'll make sure you get it.
Thank you.
Waiting for Deb.
I didn't know if there was any more
No, I
discussion.
think
Sorry.
we're good.
Okay. Andrew Benson,
Yes,
Doug Dake,
Yes.
Bronwyn Losi,
Yes.
Joseph Wetmore,
Yes.
Ed Levine.
Yes. Item 17, board member reports. Let's start off with Andra.
okay, I commented on the library and also Lansing services, and those are the only two that right now.
I'm having trouble hearing you, Andra.
I said I already reported on what the library's doing. Lansing Youth Services one was a very complete report, so I didn't say anything, and those are the only two I'm currently, are involved in.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Brownwood?
Am I unmuted yet? No. Yes.
Yes.
There you are.
Here I am. I attended a virtual training about doing aggregate energy buying, and got some information about how that works. And Salt Point had the cleanup, and I was not able to make it, but I'm hearing something. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. I had the IO meeting and continuing discussion about how best to structure it to move forward, and how best to support municipalities in that. There was also the ZBA meeting, and worked on gathering signatures for the campaign that we are looking at.
Okay. Anything else?
So that's all. Yep.
Thank you. Doug?
Nope.
Okay. Doug?
I have nothing this evening. Unfortunately, didn't make the planning board meeting last week. I worked late and I forgot all about it. My fault. I apologize. I should have been there, and so forgive me.
You are forgiven, my friend. Go in peace.
All right, see ya.
Okay, Joe?
Okay, I'd like to start off with a topic that's been on everybody's mind, the social movement that's been in the streets all over the world, and I want to make my position clear. Black Lives Matter. I want to say that clearly. I want to say that saying this does not invalidate the hard life of many white people have had. It just means that the color of your skin, an unchangeable characteristic of who you are, should not be a determination of how you are treated in our society. we can acknowledge that Black Lives Matter without taking away from everyone else's personal experience with pain and adversity. We need to acknowledge the racism that we all carry. It does not make us bad people. It simply acknowledges that we've internalized parts of our society that have been built on racist policies of the past. I cannot see all the ways that the skin I was born with has given me privilege in the society, but I can acknowledge that society has given me untold advantages to the color of my skin. I can also recognize that when privilege has not been equally divided in our society, those of us who got extra helpings will have to give up some of our privilege so others can share. It's easy to make a statement, but I ask we as a board actually do something as well. Governor Cuomo has directed that communities have 9 months to pass laws enacting redesigning of their police force to make it clearly more reflect the community needs, including the Black and brown members of our community. I would like to see the Lansing Town Board create a council of residents and community leaders that will work to achieve this. I propose that we engage our sheriff, Derek Osborne, who's one of our residents, so we can contribute to this conversation and the work that is happening regarding policing policies and systematic racism. So I'd like to start with that discussion, please.
Well, as you know, we had a demonstration, I think, a week ago Sunday, and it was peaceful. I thought it brought attention to the concerns that people have, and if you ever watch all the Facebook going back and forth, you already know that I would be proposing a focus group for that. You also can see as we go through our verbiage here, as far as I publicly have stated already, that Black Lives Matter. That doesn't mean it takes away from anything else. This discussion is about Black lives. And I've said that you can see all the Facebook posts all you want. I'm looking forward to working with Haley, Georgia. She has some information out there also. Also, I've reached out to our pastor. We have an interfaith dinner once a month. We'd like to have that information sent out also. If Haley wants to give us information to share with people so they can look at it and they can absorb it and make their own decisions, I think that is the first step as far as that goes. To get the information out there for people to read it. And Sheriff Osborne was here with that demonstration. When Haley Ann reached out to me, they wanted to start at the park, and they wanted to walk all the way up to the corner crossroads. I suggested that they start at the town hall. Talking to Sheriff Osborne about that, because I was concerned about their safety, he invited them up there to be on Warren Road, where they would have tremendous visibility, but they also would be off the road so no one would get hurt. They talked it over, so we have communications going back and forth. Chris Patagrasso was also at this demonstration. So we have a network developing already. And the nice thing about it is that, once again, that was a forum to start this discussion. So that's already started. But the main thing is, in my opinion, is that how you get the information out there in a palatable fashion so people can see what is going on. And I have stated this in the past. Many times we're talking about the same thing. Some people will say, for instance, 6. Some people say half a dozen. Some people will say you're privileged. Some people will say this other person is underprivileged. Some person would say that you have advantages. Some people will say they have disadvantages. When I was growing up, that the underprivileged and disadvantaged, those were the words used. Have we made progress in the last 50 years? I would say yes. Can we make much more progress? Absolutely. So we've always started that discussion. I'll be more than happy to, once again, move forward with this focus group to get out information for people so they can read it. We can put it on the website if you want. There's other things that we can do here to share the information. So the ball's already rolling, just a matter of what the next step is. And that's
I think the next step is for us to get engaged with this discussion that Governor Cuomo has asked our communities to do, and I'd like to get it engaged as a community, starting with the town board and building more community members into it, and have a formal part that we take part in this discussion, because it's going to be happening over the course of 9 months, and I think it's important that we be a part of it formally.
Well, once again, as Haley has commented to me, I think she just got done with her teaching job for the year, so now she'll have a little bit more time. So we can have those discussions on how we want to keep this forum moving forward and sharing information. Having said that, we also have to look at our own community. You know, granted that our Lansing community is mostly white, that does not mean that we cannot support people who are of different color, absolutely. But how do we engage in calm dialogue so people can digest the information that's out there and not have it become inflammatory? That's my concern. That's why I wanted to start this focus group, get the information out there. So hopefully in the next week or so, Haley Ann will start to give me some more information I can share with people that's accessible to everyone. And then if you want to form a focus group to do that, let's have that conversation also. There was a very inspiring commentary that one individual said on Sunday. He was from North Carolina, and he gave a testimony of what it was like to be constantly pulled over. Having said that, I think that is very impactful. So once again, moving forward, as we have, to form that task or that focus group and get the information out there.
I would very much like to be a part of this, since I think I'm the only one on the board who has grandchildren, many grandchildren of color. And I literally pray for them every single day, especially those who are males. So I have a big stake in this. My whole family does. And so I'd be very interested, and I'm very happy with what's happened and what Ed's done. And I'm sure the sheriff, Mr. Osborne, would be very glad to hear that we are concerned, because if something happens in Lansing, the sheriff comes. And so I think we all should do this. We should be on a focus group. We should include him. There are many, many children in the school system now of color. A generation ago, there was not. In fact, when I adopted children, they were one of the first children of color in the school district. This was a generation ago.
Andrea, I think your input would be invaluable because you would give a different perspective than all of us, but can you imagine?
Exactly. Yep.
And you would give it a very realistic, palatable way that people can sit and absorb it. And if you want to have change, to me, long-term change is peaceful change. Otherwise, when the next person gets a bigger pile of rocks, they move back the other way. So we'll do this incrementally. I'd like you to be on that focus group.
Thank you.
Okay? All right. Anything else, Joe?
Yeah, I'd like to talk about the budget. I know we've been talking about it on email, and I think you and I we're having a discussion that wasn't getting anywhere, and I'd like to do it as Zoom because it's the best we can do at the moment. But you talked about how, you know, I realize that we're not getting as much money into the sales tax, from the sales tax that we normally would, and this primarily affects the highway department. And you're describing how we're going to have the highway department work on the water district, so we aren't relying on sales tax money for them. And I'm just worried that we're going to get in the habit of having the highway people doing other projects and fall behind on the highway work that needs to be done.
All right,
Yeah,
so let me address that, Joe. First of all, Cricket won't let that happen. Okay, he won't take on a job if the highways are going to be sacrificed. And he did that before, and he was very successful when he did the Drake Road Water District. I think that was Consolidated Water District number 4. Now I'm going to speak slowly, and this is on YouTube, and this will be recorded. So if you want to write these things down now, fine. If you want to go visit them later, fine. I've sent out information to the board members on certain things, and hopefully I can congeal all these. One of the things we've done is every month we get a summation of the sales tax. And the sales tax, our part of it, funds the code office, which takes 20% of it, between the code and planning and informational aid. The other 80% goes to the highway department. Now that sales tax last year, the actual amount was $1,666,138.29. Our budget this year is $1,599,290. When you compare this year to last year, which is what we do, you have to understand that the total budget this year is 4% less. Now, when you do these calculations of 4% less, and you go through the first 3 months, I should say, excuse me, the first 4 months, we are at a deficit of $465.11. If you project for the 5th month, which is what I think Tompkins County is doing, of a 30% decrease in sales tax compared to last year of $118,695, excuse me, $124,225.98 for the month of May, that pushes our deficit this year to $36,073.72. Now, let's just take a step back and look at what our fund balance is. Our fund balance right now, when you look at those numbers, as soon as I find my piece of paper here, I will share it with you.
Can I make a light? How much of that did you say went to the rec department? I didn't hear that percentage, I missed it.
You're right on cue, my friend, thank you. You're right on cue. Let me see if I can find you. Please bear with me. When we had our B and our DB together at the end of the year, it was $1,187,618. Excuse me, $1,187,618. That's the combined B and DB. The reason I do that together is so you can slide money back and forth easily because it's coming from the same pot. When you divide that by what the monthly amount would be, the monthly amount is, for each month, that's $141,897, and you have all this information. So how many months of fund balance do we have sitting to one side as we still collect sales tax? It's 8 months, 8.37 months is how much we have. So consequently, when we look at that, we take out your 6 months that we, through our fund balance policy, said we need to set aside, that 2.37 months left over gives us $336,295.89. That's how much we have in quote-unquote surplus over our 6 months. So I'm proposing that we see what the next few months go with and go from there and not decrease any of these projects for right now. Cricket has a plan that if they do, for instance, if the CHIP money does not come in a full amount, there are ways that he can pare back some of his roads this year if he has to. So he's willing to work with us on that. That's the first thing. When you look at one of our revenue streams, which is the mortgage tax. The mortgage tax we had proposed to be $250,000 every year. 2 years ago, it was $539,866.03. Last year, it was $213,736.99. So we were below the $250,000. This year, our first allocation, we get 2 allocations, we're at $136,353.10. So we're basically almost $120,000 from our goal. You have to understand that the housing market, they may not be buying houses, but they're refinancing houses. Anytime you refinance the house, you still pay a mortgage tax. So once again, we're in a position where we can wait and see how things go before we propose on cutting things back. Because if you're not going to raise taxes and your levy goes up, what are you going to do?
I have a quick question on the mortgage tax. What period does that first allocation cover? What time period?
That came from October 1st until March 31st. So it was October 1st of last year until the end of March. So our next one will be from, looks like April 1st until September 30th.
Can we get that in October?
We should get that in October, yes. So we'll see.
We shall see. I'm planning on meeting with Cricket because I am very concerned about how sales tax is going down. And I know we've just started to see the downward climb on that, and I've been watching the county predictions, and I'm going to talk with him some more, and I'd like to talk some more next month because I think this is a year in which we have to keep very careful eyes on the budget because it's all new ground for us.
Well, Joe, not to be rude, but we keep eyes on the budget every year, because you know what?
I know.
We've had a power plant that we lost $40 million off of, cumulatively over the last 3 years, it was $100 million. We went from, and because of that, we still have raised taxes over 4 years, 5 cents per thousand. On a $300,000 house, that's $15.
This is different this year, Ed, because the changes are happening mid-budget year as opposed to stuff like the power plant and the mall going down in assessed value, in which we at least knew that at budget time, as opposed to in the middle of the year, suddenly numbers are changing dramatically from what we estimated them to be.
You sing to the choir, my friend. It's fine. We watch it every year, and once again, the taxpayers' money we respect, and we'll watch this carefully. But on the other hand, I don't see cutting services for our town. Now, if somebody wants to come up with some suggestions to cut services, I'll be more than happy to have that conversation publicly at our next meeting or meeting afterwards. By the way, Pat would love to talk to you also about the rec department.
I will sit down with Pat. What's our timeline for the 2021 budget? When are you starting that request with?
The season goes every year, and I'll be happy to share that with that cycle again. We've done this every year. Andrew knows this cycle very well, so does Doug. It's a cycle we start every year, and it probably starts in July as far as the department heads tabulating what their needs are for the following year. So these are the preliminary discussions by memory. Is probably July and August, and then we go with the tentative budget, then a preliminary budget, then go from there. That's all spelled out. That's all spelled out. The information usually we have from the Town and Country magazine is where I get my information from. So I can look back at last times, but the other thing is I sent that information to you last year also. So we'll see what the schedule is. It's okay to start these conversations now, but please keep in mind that Lansing is very fiscally sound. And the reason we went with a 6-month fund balance reserve, if you want to call it that, is to be able to withstand these situations and still move forward and give value to our residents.
I agree that Lansing's budget situation is really good at the moment, and I want to keep extra care to keep it that way.
I agree with you. Let's share a moment. We usually don't. Okay. Anything else anybody else wants to talk about? Anything else, Joe?
Now, the rest of my report I sent out, and it'll be part of the minutes. Though I did get a request from one of our constituents to at least go over the points in my written report because they can't read it on YouTube.
The reports, Joe, all the reports this time we did get put onto the website for everybody to read. They're all up there before the meeting, just to let you know that.
Oh, excellent. Okay, thank you. That's even better. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay. Anyone else?
Do you want to do that? Are you gonna talk, or have you talked enough?
More about what?
Were you gonna discuss the new schedule?
Yes, I'll pass the mic over, said figuratively, to Deb Munson. We have a concern, and I know we've been constantly trying to address this, of these last-minute changes or ads, whatever. And it really is a nightmare for our town clerk to keep doing these changes at the end. And we're trying to work out a schedule where we can get these things in at a reasonable time. And I believe Deb Munson has sent that schedule to everyone. And if you want to take over the floor from here and just walk us through it.
Okay, so as Ed said, we're trying to get a better handle on not getting last-minute things to me, last-minute questions out. That's not fair to the people doing the stuff, and that's not fair to the board members who have questions, that they're not having enough time to figure out what their questions are. So we started working sort of backwards from the meeting, and this seems pretty pretty aggressive, whatever, but we're going to try it and see how it works out for everybody. So there is a emailed and a printed copy for everybody, depending on how they're here at the meeting tonight. So the next meeting is on July 15th. So the June 24th is the deadline for resolution and agenda items to come to my office. Then a week after that is the deadline for my office to send the resolutions and the supporting documents to the town board and department heads for review. And then there's one more week, July 8th, the deadline for the town board and the department heads to submit questions, updates, comments, and so on to get them all finalized. So that gives board members, department heads, whomever who has questions, that gives them a week to review everything. And all the reports should be to me by July 8th. And then the following Monday, the final agenda working documents will be sent to the town board and posted on the website. So, and I think this will work. We'll try it, see how it goes. But like I say, it's starting already with like next Wednesday is when this is starting. But it should give everybody involved in getting a meeting together and voting on things, et cetera, time to review, ask questions, and so on. So that's...
This, our next meeting is gonna be pretty full. I think you have 4 public hearings.
Yeah.
So if things can wait till the month afterwards, it might be a great opportunity to submit these for now, but maybe say certain things can wait till our August meeting. I don't know how long the next one's gonna be. It may be quick or it may be a long time. We'll have to wait and see.
If items are sent to me ahead of time, like if somebody knows something's coming up, I have agendas started ahead of time. So if somebody sends me something next week or in the next couple weeks or whatever, and just say, I'd like this on this August agenda, I'll just, pop it on the August agenda. So.
I just wanted to say thank you a lot for setting this timeline up. It really helps. It's going to help me figure out when I need to make sure to review stuff and get enough time to fit it in around of the rest of life that's happening. My one question that I have had sort of hiccups in understanding is the consent agenda and when things are decided to be put on that versus not, and how that process works and or will work with this new setup.
Do you want me to answer that? Well, so if the new setup doesn't work any better than what we've been doing, there will no longer be a consent agenda. I'm going to say that right up front because it's way, way, way too much work to get something all done on there, take it off, and then maybe put it back on a day later or whatever. So, I mean, hopefully we can still use it. It does definitely save a lot of time. Almost everything can go on a consent agenda. By the time you get to a board meeting, everybody should already, a resolution shouldn't really come to a board meeting until people are completely ready to vote on it. If there's a whole lot of discussion, then it shouldn't be on the consent agenda. But just, scheduling public hearings, voting to pass, to pay the bills, setting up a committee, just sort of routine things can easily go on a consent agenda. By law, there are a few things that can't go on there, and, Guy helps me out with things like that, certain money type things, I believe it is, but almost everything can be on a consent agenda.
Okay, I wonder if explicitly putting in here that by Wednesday, July 8th, if we still have items that are going to be on the agenda, but we don't feel comfortable having them on the consent agenda, that we need to reply and say, keep this out of the consent agenda. Just having that explicitly in there might make life a little bit smoother and make it a little bit more efficiently.
I would say yes, it definitely needs to know by the 8th because that's really when the final is going to be started to put together because that only gives me from Wednesday till Monday. So, but I guess the hope is that if the town board has everything by July 1st, they have a whole week to ask their questions, to get to the people that have the knowledge to clear up whatever their questions are so that in that week's time, that can get cleared up and it could be still on the consent agenda.
Right, that's helpful to have that time. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions about it?
I just want to say that I like the plan to give us a little bit more time to read some of this stuff. I know some of the questions I had on this about things being on the consent agenda were items that I saw on the consent agenda before I got any paperwork telling me what they were, like the New York Bridge project, in which, you know, it's hard to judge whether I'm okay with it being on a consent agenda when I don't actually know what the item is, and I got the actual write-up several days later. And so being able to see this stuff in advance will certainly help a lot. And I truly appreciate you trying to set up something to give us at least a week to look at stuff. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. I will say that the reason that that bridge one, that probably could have been on the consent agenda. I chose not to because I need to do 5 certified copies of it, and it's just easier for me to have that as its own resolution to be able to do the certified copies later. So that wasn't left out for any particular reason other than that.
Okay, any other comments? About anything? I want to share something with you here, and then I want to move into executive session for a few minutes. And it's really easy to find what's wrong with everything, but I don't think we get enough good news around here. Kind of like our employees, they're like referees. You don't notice them until something goes wrong or you think something's going wrong. You don't really appreciate all they do. This letter was written by George Gessline. He's the president of the North Lansing Rural Cemetery Association. And he says, this is addressed to Mr. Charlie Purcell, our highway superintendent. He says, Dear Cricket, thank you very much for repairing and upgrading the roadways of the North Lansing Cemetery. Your personnel did a terrific job, and we should be good for many years now that the road is back to level, and the road millings you use should hold up better than the gravel that was used previously. Your department's efforts will help us maintain a quality cemetery and enhance the overall the overall viability of the town and the community of North Lansing. So, to Cricket and to Mike and to the highway department, job well done, gentlemen. Very good. They do a lot of stuff, and they're moving all over the place right now. And like I said before, sometimes it's easy to take them for granted. But on the other hand, like I said, all they do is do their job, and they go home. So I think I'm very proud of myself that we have such a great highway department. I would like to move an executive session. I don't have my cheat sheet here, but it has to do with, I believe it's that employees' behavior that may cause litigation. Is that on there?
I would like to talk about a litigation matter we have currently before the town as well.
You want that in executive session also?
Yes, please.
All right, so. Proposed, pending, or current litigation, that might apply. I'm looking down here for behavior of employee.
That would certainly apply to the topic I would like to discuss.
All right, then let's use that one then. So I'll move to go into executive session,
Second it?
okay?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
That, you were for it, right, Bronwyn?
She said aye.
Okay, but she said it kind of, why I said opposed. Yeah, okay.
So Patrick, do I keep the button on?
Shut the button off.
No.
You wanna